So roster cutdowns are less than a week away. Meanwhile, the Chiefs need help at a couple of position groups due to injuries, and a very familiar face who's on another team is expected to be cut. Well, whether you love it or hate it, many fans think a surprising return is very near. Then we have a bit of an update on the Rashi suspension, so I've got to talk about all that and more as I break this roster down one last time before cutdowns. Then, of course, look at those who are not playing in this preseason game and some battles to keep tabs on. But first, how about those? All right, so the Chiefs play their last preseason game on Friday. It's going to be a home game at Arrowhead against the Chicago Bears. I want to get into a few different things here, including the most recent up-to-date 53-man roster projection that I have as the team heads into this game. Roster cutdowns are on Tuesday, so everything is happening really quickly here. Football season is right around the corner, which is great. So we'll talk a little bit about this game, who's not playing, and kind of weave in a 53-man roster projection all throughout. So Andy Reid ruled a bunch of players out for this game. No real surprises here because most of these guys either haven't practiced at all this week or are slowly ramping back up after being out for a long time. So you have tight end Jake Brenningstool, hamstring, linebacker Jack Cochran, knee. I will say this real quick, though, about Jake Brenningstool. He is back at practice and working, so that hamstring seems to be getting a little bit better. He's just not quite there yet. I already mentioned Jack Cochran's knee contusion. You have offensive lineman Ethan Driscoll out with the appendix, safety Mike Edwards hamstring, Najee Johnson with the shoulder, defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott with the ankle, and wide receiver Jalen Royals knee. None of that is a big surprise, but there's a couple key players that I want to watch in this game. That's cornerback Christian Fulton and wide receiver Hollywood Brown. They've missed a lot of time. Fulton with the knee, Hollywood Brown with the ankle/foot. It seems like they are both going to get some work in, as are all of the starters. Andy Reid said today during his presser, the starters are going to play. He's going to feel it out from there. I'm assuming they get one, maybe two drives, and then we'll see how everything else kind of shakes out from there. But at least the key starters will get a couple of series. In a perfect world, both Christian Fulton and Hollywood Brown are able to play and get some real game reps before week 1 in Brazil with the Chargers. Hollywood is going to be a game time decision. Andy Reid's going to see how he feels during warmups. He's taking it day by day and doesn't want any setbacks. Especially with Rice's suspension incoming, you want all your receivers, or as many as humanly possible, to be healthy and out there playing. Jalen Royals will monitor the knee. It's knee tendonitis, a little bit of swelling in there. So let's see how he does. He's not going to be playing in this game. He's already ruled out. But will he be ready for week 1 against the Chargers is something to kind of just pay attention to. So with the roster needing to go down from 90 players to 53 in less than a week, a lot of jobs are on the line. This is a very serious time for a lot of players where they may not know where they're playing next week, could be a different team, or they could find themselves out of the NFL altogether. With that, let's talk 53-man roster projection and kind of what I'm going to be looking for at some of these position groups during this game. For quarterbacks, 2. Yes, Patrick Mahomes and Gardner Minshew. I think Chris Oladokun has looked good, climbed up the ranks. He looks better out there than Bailey Zappi. He's going to be your practice squad guy, but only 2 crack the 53 for me right now. Running backs, very interesting position group to watch because you have Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Elijah Mitchell, and Brashard Smith being my 4. I still am on the fence about Carson Steele. Don't think he makes the 53-man roster unless Andy Reid just says, I want a fullback here, because I think Steele can clear waivers and get onto the practice squad. Meanwhile, Elijah Mitchell has over $1.3 million guaranteed on his contract. It's a lot to kind of walk away from. Then Brashard Smith, he's not going anywhere. I don't know what to expect from him year 1 as a rookie, but he was very explosive last week in that last preseason game, and I'm excited to see at least a little bit more from him in this one. I did want to see more from him as the team's returner. Punt returner in particular. Didn't really see what I wanted to, so let's watch that. Game 3 for Brashard Smith as the team's punt returner, because that's really the only way in my eyes that Nico Remigio is not making the roster as a wide receiver 6 or 7. With that being said, Sky Moore had that punt return for a touchdown, but I don't think he's going to be your returner. I don't think he's going to make the roster. But before I get too far ahead to the wide receiver room, Elijah Mitchell, let's watch him, because if he has even a couple of standout plays, I think he's safe to make the roster over Carson Steele. You have Kareem Hunt, who is your short yardage guy. Okay, meanwhile, Carson Steele, even on 4th and 1, fullback dive, couldn't convert. I know that is a very predictable play for the Kansas City Chiefs. But Kareem Hunt can be your short yardage guy and then use somebody else on special teams rather than Carson Steele. From there, I want to go with 4 tight ends, but I'm going to have to go with 3 because I think Rice, if he does not start out the season suspended, is going to force the Chiefs' hand here, and they have to go with 7 wide receivers. So you have 3 tight ends, Kelsey, Noah Gray, and Jared Wiley. I want Robert Tonyan on the roster, okay? If he makes the 53, I wouldn't even be surprised here because he's had some really standout performances in these preseason games. I think he's earned a spot on the 53, but with him being a vested veteran, he does not have to clear waivers and could immediately sign to the Chiefs practice squad. So that's just kind of where I have him right now, because if Rice doesn't start the season out suspended, I don't see how you keep less than 7 wide receivers on this roster. Rashi Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Jalen Royals, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, and Nico Remigio. Again, Nico Remigio is primarily your depth piece on offense, but he's also your returner. Dave Tobe said it is a very hard job in the NFL to be a dependable punt returner, and I think Nico is just that for them. If Brashard Smith can somehow have some standout performance returns on Friday, this 3rd preseason game, then maybe you can count Nico out. But Brownlee, I don't think is going to make it over somebody like Nico. I don't think Sky is there either. He had a lot of drops, 3 drops, 2 on offense, 1 on that kick return last game. I think he's on his way out. Now, if Rice does for some reason start out the season suspended, Jason Brownlee could find himself in there as wide receiver 7, your niche package guy in the red zone or on key downs where you want to throw some jump 50-50 balls to Brownlee. He can haul it in. Mahomes doesn't typically love to do that, but he did it first preseason game, and Brownlee sure showed out with that one. Now, before we leave the wide receiver room, Adam Schefter did speak a little bit about the Rashi Rice suspension on his podcast yesterday. He actually said the NFL was initially wanting 8 games for his suspension, where Tom Pelissero from NFL Network last week said 10 games. I like the idea of 8 more just because it doesn't put you in the Justin Tucker, Deshaun Watson realm of things. Justin Tucker got suspended 10 games. Deshaun Watson got suspended 11 games. So 8 is just better based on what the crimes were. I understand that it was all on film and all that for Rice, which is playing a role into why the NFL is wanting an 8-game suspension. Rice and his camp, meanwhile, want probably 3 to 4 games. I think it might end up being 6. Adam Schefter says it could be 4, maybe 5. 6 is probably where it's going to be if he had to basically put money on it, which is what we've been thinking all along. And in order to make room for 7 receivers, 4 running backs, I am going to, this go around, have 1 less offensive lineman. We'll get to that in just a second, but the starters are a gimme. Josh Simmons, Kingsley Suamataia, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Jawan Taylor. Jalen Moore is your next man in at tackle, maybe even as guard, but Wanye is also a swing tackle. Mike Caliendo will most likely be left guard number 2 or right guard number 2 if Kingsley either struggles or Trey Smith goes down to injury. And then Hunter Norzad is the last guy I have on here. He's got center guard flexibility. Ethan Driscoll, though, for now, I've had him off the first one, put him back on. He's off again for me. I don't know what to do with another tackle on the roster, especially with him dealing with the removed appendix and he's not playing right now. Maybe he starts out on IR or something like that. It's tough to know, but in order to have 25 players on offense, that is what I rolled with, moving Ethan Driscoll off the 53-man roster for now. And next up, we got to get into the defense, as well as a couple other interesting things, because I think we could find a former Chief back on the roster. But first, I've got to give a shout out to today's sponsor, as well as the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports, Underdog. With the season right around the corner, now is the perfect time to get in on the action with Underdog's brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5 and get $50 in bonus funds when you sign up using my code HBTC. They have a bunch of season-long drafts going on right now, including their flagship contest, Best Ball Mania 6. It's $25 to enter, but features $15 million in prizes, with the winner getting $2 million. This is a no-stress season-long draft with no waivers, substitutions, or trades, and also no need to set your lineups. Then, of course, there's pick'ems as well, which I will do every week all season long. You just choose higher or lower on your favorite player stats to win up to 1,000x on your money. They do have pick'ems going on for preseason if that's your kind of thing, but they also have picks out for week 1 of the regular season. So hop on Underdog today, where any new signup who uses my code HBTC has to play just $5 to get $50 in bonus funds. All right, for the defense, 4 defensive tackles: Chris Jones, Jerry Tillery, Omar Norman Lott, and Mike Pennell. However, with Omar Norman-Lott not practicing, the ankle got banged up at training camp. He retweaked it last preseason game. He was visibly frustrated on the sideline. He's not playing. What if Derek Nottie came back to the Kansas City Chiefs? He is currently a roster cut candidate over there with the Jets. Some Chiefs fans would love it. Some Chiefs fans would hate it. But right now, you need some defensive tackle depth, and he makes sense because he was drafted by the Chiefs in 2018 and has spent his entire career with the Chiefs up until this past offseason when he signed with the Jets. Well, and to almost further solidify Derek Nottie is not making the Jets roster as he was playing in the second half of some of these preseason games, the Jets also just traded for a defensive tackle from the Browns and Jawan Briggs. So that leads some to believe that Derek Nottie is officially out the door on cutdown day. And when you look at his contract, it's $400,000 in dead money on a $1.3 million contract or something like that. Get ready, because I think he's about to be a Kansas City Chief. He's a vested veteran, wouldn't have to clear waivers, and the Chiefs could sign him to the roster. What are you going to do on defense to make room for him? Well, if Omar Norman-Lott's ankle is bad enough, you could put him on IR where he misses the first 4 games of the season. I'm not really sure, but I am going to say 4 defensive tackles right now, but I would not be surprised if Derek Nottie finds himself back on the roster. For defensive ends, it is a little bit of a change here. George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu, Ashton Gelati. Your 5th defensive end was supposed to be Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He is out for the entire season on IR with that bad hamstring injury. So defensive end number 5, Malik Herring is who is slotted in there. That's who Spags said would benefit the most from FAU not being around. But what if defensive end number 5 is actually not on the roster right now? That's what I think happens. I think they find some guy in the rotation. Yeah, they just added a couple guys because Janarius Robinson's on IR, as is FAU. But I think the guy who ends up being on the 53-man roster is not currently on the Chiefs roster and is on another team. Come cutdown day, the Chiefs add one. In order to make room for one of these extra defensive linemen, you could go with one less linebacker. I struggle to do that right now because Jack Cochran is dealing with the knee contusion. So Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, Leo Chanel, Jeffrey Bassa, definite locks. Jack Cochran, I think he's going to make the 53 unless he's on IR. He's very valuable on special teams, and then he's one of the next men up in the rotation in case of injury. Spags spoke very highly of him. And then from there, I have Cole Christensen as linebacker 6. It could be Cam Jones, especially if Jack Cochran got placed on IR. I think Cole Christensen and Cam Jones both have a pretty good chance of making it. That does leave Brandon George, the UDFA with the 9.98 relative athletic score, not making the 53. The writing was kind of on the wall for him. He was playing in the 4th quarter last game. I think he would be a great practice squad candidate and maybe a linebacker on the roster in the future. The cornerback room, I'm still going to roll with 6. Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Christian Fulton, Noel Williams, Chris Roland Wallace. He's been working in at safety, but he's still a cornerback on the roster. Mainly operates as a DB kind of all over the place, but Nazeeh Johnson is then going to be cornerback number 6. Joshua Williams has a chance to make the roster if Nazeeh's pretty banged up, but it seems more of a minor injury for him. So right now, I think Sky Moore, Josh Williams, those are 2 guys that could maybe be traded if they have value. If not, you're just going to be cut. You're not going to make the roster, and they will have to hit the waiver wire. If they clear the waiver wire, maybe we see these guys on the practice squad. Some are concerned about the injuries in the cornerback room, but Trent McDuffie, healthy. Jalen Watson was concussed. He's back and healthy. Christian Fulton is working back from the knee, progressing well. Need to see how he does this week. I'm excited to see him get some real game reps in. Noel Williams was concussed, but he's cleared concussion protocol and he's back at practice. You do have Nazeeh with the shoulder. That's the biggest question mark in the cornerback room, but for now, that's the 6 for me. Safety room, same 4 here. Jaden Hicks, Brian Cook, Chamari Connor, and Mike Edwards. He's dealing with a hamstring right now, not going to play. I don't think it's too serious. Dion Bush was a potential practice squad candidate for me on the roster, but he tore his Achilles, and he's out for the season. That is a room to watch, really the secondary in general, with this game against the Bears on Friday. I'm excited that it's at Arrowhead. It's on grass. Much better than turf in the rain in Seattle, but I just need these guys to stay healthy, man. Get out of there healthy, suffer no more injuries, and that's only going to mean good things for the Chiefs moving forward. The less injuries, the better. Please and thank you. Then for the specialists, no surprises here. Long snapper James Winchester, kicker Harrison Butker, and punter Matt Ariza. You could see a couple of changes after this 3rd preseason game, especially if injuries hit the room, or you could see a couple of changes on roster cutdown day. If the Chiefs claim some guys off of waivers, there will be some minor shape-ups here, changes, but I think that is the gist of the 53-man roster. You guys got to let me know where you agree and disagree. How do you see the wide receiver room playing out? A lot of that hinges on Rice's suspension. What do you think about the running back room? You think Elijah Mitchell is safe, even though he has a $1.3 million guaranteed contract, or nah, the guarantees don't matter. He could definitely find himself out of there. Let me know your thoughts on Steele, on that, the cornerback room. Could they find a new defensive end from another team? What about Derek Nottie returning from the Jets if he doesn't make the 53? There's a lot there, but let me know your thoughts as we gear up for preseason game number 3 in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?